The Huskers are still one game short of bowl eligibility after a game effort against Ohio State. 2-5 UCLA is coming to town, and we'll break that down for you. Sean Callahan will have the latest in recruiting, and we'll talk to Nebraska basketball coach Fred Hoiberg. All coming up next on Big Red Wrap-Up. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Severe. Welcome to Big Red Wrap-Up on Nebraska Public Media. Nebraska still one game away from getting to bowl eligibility, but a great performance against Ohio State in a loss. We're going to break that down. Joining me, Jay Moore, of course, the former Husker, and Sean Callahan. I know there's no moral victories. I get that and everything, but everybody feels a lot better this week than they did last week. I guarantee that.
Oh, yeah. It's not even close.
Yeah.
I think you'd asked 99.9% of the people, they said Nebraska's going to have a lead in the fourth quarter at Ohio State when you're 25, 26 points underdog. The people sign me up right away. But so close yet still it seems so far away. I'm pretty sure those are lyrics to a song. But it showed improvement, right? And that's all I want to see and fight. That's the biggest thing I took away from this game. They fought, they battled, even though they lost. You feel better about these last 4 games in November now. Yeah.
Sean, you're, obviously for what you do, you read a board, a lot of people talk. What was the feeling in Husker Nation this week?
I think it was almost kind of like, wait, this is happening? I mean, You think about it, Nebraska was the largest point spread underdog in any game in college football last week, and we could have seen one of the biggest upsets in the modern day history of Nebraska football. Maybe the 1959 Oklahoma game is the considered the greatest upset of all time for the program. This would have been right up there, especially in the modern times. Ohio State has a $20 million NIL roster, a team that Urban Meyer said had the most talented roster he's ever seen, maybe. So to see Nebraska push them around, shut their run game down, have some bad calls, change the game in a lot of respects, but still overcome that with the ball in their hand to win the game. That stadium, I'll never forget that feeling going down there in the fourth quarter. It was stunned. People were angry. They were stunned that this was going to happen because Ohio State does not lose games like this ever.
Yeah, they're a lot like Nebraska was when Tom Osborne never lost to an unranked team. So a lot like that. We want to get and know what you think. There's a lot to cover tonight, and we can't do it without your help. We've got phones standing by, and they're ready for your calls. But if you prefer, you can always text or email us. Send your comments and questions to bigred@nebraskapublicmedia.org. We're also monitoring our social media accounts tonight. Send us your thoughts on Big Red Wrap-Up's Facebook page or X account, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. Time for Sideline Survey. Last week, we asked you what's your favorite road trip in the Big Ten, and it makes sense. A lot of folks love Chicago, so Northwestern won out. And then it was Minnesota, because Minneapolis is nice as well, and then Wisconsin going to Madtown. And last, Michigan, because that is a horrible trip. I agree with the people that voted. This week's question, if the Big Ten expands again, who would you like to see join the conference? You got Iowa State, Kansas, and Missouri, the old Big 8 teams. Then you got a couple AC teams in North Carolina and Virginia, and then there's Notre Dame. No surprise, Notre Dame with 58%. Not a surprise. People would love to see that. The Big Ten has made a statement based off of what happened with Nebraska, admitting that the officiating call that cost Nebraska against Ohio State. The statement from Kerry Kenny, the Big Ten office goes as follows. During Nebraska's final drive of the first half, on second down with 2 yards to gain on Ohio State's 39-yard line, the ball was incorrectly spotted after the run by Cornhusker running back Emmett Johnson. The ball carrier crossed the 37-yard line. The first down should have been awarded to Nebraska. Replay should have stopped the game to review the spot since it involved a line to gain. I am sure that as you're watching that and you saw it, and here's the replay of it, you were shocked as well.
Because you see that, I'm like, he clearly got the first down.
Right.
But then you see the clock going, I'm like, what? So I just figured they would recorrect it. They'd probably take some time. Hey, please set the clock back to a minute and some change, whatever the time was. But it didn't happen. And Nebraska has to call timeout in this scenario. And you're just like, how? You see the replay, and listen, being a referee is tough.
It's hard,
But spotting a football is not that difficult. And to not spot it within 2 yards it's comical.
Yeah. Multiple mistakes.
And it seems like Nebraska's been on this side the last, decade of these crazy calls. It's just, like Rule said, man, it's just enough with apologies, right?
Just get it right.
On Sundays, just get it right and get it fixed.
Defense looked great, made so many great plays, made those 2 great running backs look pretty pedestrian, along with only really giving up 4 explosive plays.
Yeah, the breakdowns on the back end. I mean, I thought just the way Jamari Butler and MJ Sherman, the way they played together on the edge, really complemented Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmacher, and then Deshaun Singleton on the back end played one of his best games. To think about, Ohio State, I believe, only converted 1 3rd down the entire game. And it was
10.
a QB sneak
Yeah.
where there actually was a false start that wasn't called. So I thought the most impressive moments for Nebraska's defense was when Ohio State was in 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2.
Yeah.
Nebraska was essentially undefeated in those downs, which I don't know if there's a lot of teams that can do that to a team like Ohio State. So that's something I think moving forward you can hang your hat on.
Yeah.
It needs to carry over now to this week.
Jay, as a defensive lineman, if I'd have told you that 1/3 of the runs by Ohio State would be stuffed, meaning no gain or loss of yardage, you'd be shocked. But that's what they did.
yeah.
It was the best stuff performance I've seen from the
No,
Nebraska.
it was such a vastly different performance than what obviously we saw against Indiana. So something clicked, right? Obviously, how they prepared from the Indiana game compared to the Ohio State game. I think the game plan was much more simplified. And I think the guys just played a little more pissed off that they performed so badly. And I always say when's the time of you being sick and tired? When you become sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? I feel like this defense kind of got to that point. But the ability, I mean, coming out and how poorly that first drive started for Nebraska, bobbling the kickoff, bobbling the first snap, and then come out for stuff them on 4th down right there. And it just set you up for success. It set you up for that mentality. And they were consistent. Obviously got the 2 big plays over top to their explosive wide receivers. That's going to happen. But the consistency they played with all day long was very encouraging. And it just makes you wonder what exactly happened in that Indiana game to where it is now. But they got to build off this. You got to take this momentum and how you performed, remember all those things that you did during that week and how you thought mentally, and take this and now get better and improve on this for these final 4 games.
7 3-and-outs. It's remarkable.
Compared to think about Indiana, I don't think there were any.
Yeah, right. I think they had one punt at the end of the game, right? Late in the game.
Kind of a mop-up punt.
Yep.
Right.
But in terms of meaningful 3rd downs, Nebraska lost all of them the week before. So I don't know if there's ever been such a drastic switch against ranked opponents from week to week I've ever seen with Nebraska, where they have played as bad as you can play to the point where everybody in the fan base has almost turned on the team. I mean, they were like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. I'm done with it. I'm moving on, to the point where, oh my gosh, we almost pulled off the largest upset in program history and shocked Ohio State in their own stadium.
Yeah, it was Ohio State fans that were saying that at the end of the game. Let's get to 1-score losses, though. I mean, as good as this was, again, Nebraska's got an opportunity. They have a lead. They have a chance, and they fall short.
Multiple chances, right? I mean, they take the lead with about 10 minutes left in the 4th
10 minutes.
quarter. They come right back out and score and play a break down the huddle. There's a couple little things, right? And that's what happens in these close games. It's the little things that matter. But then Nebraska defense does get another stop and get another opportunity. Obviously, the interception happens, but it felt that way, right? It just, even though they took the lead, and you're like, holy smokes, we're beating Ohio State on the road. It's just too soon. There's too much time left. And we've had too many Murphy's Law situations, right, in our mind where the Nebraska has leads and you give it up. And listen, they have talent. Ohio State utilized their talent, but just young quarterback, young players, just it's hard, man. It's hard to win on the road in close games. But that one was, God, you'd like to have a couple of those plays back.
We get back to Dylan Raiola, but let's talk about the run game, because that's been the one thing we've been talking about a lot this season. How do you think Dowdell and others got going in the 3rd quarter, and what that looked like?
Well, I think just number one, Dylan Raiola being able to take off and run a few times himself, that opened up just a lot more other avenues where the defense had to kind of maybe account for more with Dylan Raiola, and then to see Dante Dowdell finally kind of bust out some runs on Ohio State's defense. We haven't seen that in terms of the 10-plus yard runs. I mean, there was one that could have been, a 50, 60-yard type play. It was, we've said that a lot with Dowdell. He's kind of been a shoestring away from breaking this or that. He had another one against Ohio State. This week, you'd like to see Nebraska break a run like that against UCLA.
Yeah. Jay, you've talked about it a lot. There's nothing more annoying to a defensive lineman than a quarterback that can run a little bit, right? We'd like to see that more from Dylan.
Yeah, most definitely. I think his ability to climb in the pocket, he didn't do that very well against Indiana. I get it at times. If you have good interior rushes, sometimes you got to climb outside the pocket to do that. But ideally, you'd like to climb up the middle. That's what he did a couple times against Ohio State. And you can pick up those first downs, especially when you have a lot of your secondaries in man-to-man coverage and their backs turned to the football. You can go grab 10, 11 yards easily. And this one, he grabbed, 30 plus. So,
38, yeah.
Yeah, he has the ability to do that. It's just the protection has to be clean. He has to have a good pocket. The coverage not there, just tuck it and run it, man, and utilize that. And I think hopefully that gave him some confidence. Because sometimes I think as a young quarterback, it's like, take care of the football. Don't do dumb things with the football. Don't fumble the football. So you get a little hesitant. But I love to see that he just kind of let it rip on some of those plays and just let it go and take what the defense gives you and just go play.
Ohio State didn't get much pressure against Oregon, so I think they came out saying we're going to get pressure. The big conversation is the screen game to try to get over that pressure. The thoughts on so they had 6 passing plays that went for minus yards.
Yeah, Nebraska, you feel like you get caught up in these pre-snap games where you think pressure looks coming and then they call it off and Nebraska calls a screen. And I feel like that was happening a lot where Nebraska thought pressure was coming. Ohio State technically only blitzed, I believe, 14 times. And they only got to Raiola 7 in the game itself in terms of him under pressure on throws. But Nebraska completed 10 screens for 28 yards in that game. Yeah. 10 screens for 28 yards. And we joke today on our show, we do that the first bad screen thrown that goes for like a loss or no gain, they're going to get a nice Memorial Stadium response from that.
Yeah. Emmett Johnson had 4 catches, by the way, for 0 yards.
Mirror, I think affects that screen game. He's the best guy to catch it out of the backfield. I think Emma is second, but I think not having Ramir, that kind of hurt the screen game.
Let's talk about after the interception. Nebraska's at the 7-yard line. They have 4 plays. None of them were a throw. They do run the one sweep. Maybe it'd have been nice to run that shovel pass that they ran the 2-point conversion, but your thoughts on that stop?
Yeah, ideally, Hartzog, you'd love to see him get in just because, just in those red zone situations, it's the field condenses so much, it's just so hard to get it going. It's 2 immediate runs up the middle. They tried to go on the edges, I believe, with Lloyd, get close, kind of get another bad spot, I thought, in that scenario.
The 1 to the 2.
Where Rule thought it was on the 1, so that's where they had, the bringing Robinson as fullback and have him jump over the pile, as they did on the next touchdown. But it was just too far away. I'd love to see them get in the power formation, the power play they ran against Purdue in Rutgers, run the off-tackle power in that scenario. But, man, there's just a lot of coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Yeah. You'd love to see them get some points there. But obviously, Ohio State, man, they've got good players too. They got scholarship players too. And they bowed up and made a stop.
Let's talk about really one of the highlights of the game. John Hull goes out there and makes 3 field goals after it's been the toughest thing for Nebraska all season long.
Yeah, I think if I would have told you Nebraska would make a 54-yarder into the wind in the horseshoe, which, by the way, tied the longest field goal on the road ever made in Nebraska history. Wow. I mean, John Hull, we've heard that he's had a good leg. We just have never been able to really see it in action because the snap issues, the hold issues. This was the first time you really saw the operation look like what it should be, and then the kick looked like what it should be. What a concept, guys. I mean, in the special teams. So that was a huge boost for Nebraska because they're going to need, if they want to win in these final 4 games, it's going to be a lot of one-score games. Mm-hmm. And these kicks that we saw made by John Hull, they're going to need those kicks now moving forward here in these final 4 games.
Well, it changes the thought pattern, right? You get in the red zone or you get inside the 40-yard line, successful drive. Now you can start considering doing other things other than maybe having to go for it on 4.
Yeah, I think if you go back to the Indiana game, right? All the times you go for 4th down and you're unsuccessful. I think obviously that decision making is knowing, okay, long snapping issues, holding issues, but now going forward, you're 100% right. Knowing that you have confidence in your kicker that can go in there and make those kicks, especially on the road. Your play calling can be a little more aggressive or a little more, you can just weigh the pros and cons of every situation. And that just takes a lot of weight off of Satterfield and Rule in those situations. So, I mean, I was just surprised of anyone, but I'm glad they got the operation clean and they executed because, like Sean said, you're going to need to make some big-time kicks coming up in November.
All right, let's go to the highlights now. It was a really good game in the end. I wouldn't expect it to be, but it turned out to be. So let's check out the highlights from the game. Actually starts off really tough for Nebraska. Beautiful day in Columbus, but starting with the kickoff, we talked about how much special teams have been a problem. It's kind of funny because the week before, Ives was back there against Indiana, had a nice return. And so you're excited about it. At least he jumps on it. You don't lose it, but it puts you at the 9-yard line. Then, after that, you've got the fumble of the handoff on the exchange. It's recovered, so that's good. And then you have a chance on 3rd and 6 to make a play, and Dylan Raiola is sacked.
Yeah, you're
Tough way to start.
No, you just come out, you're like, oh boy, couldn't have got off.
And then
worse.
the shank punt.
That too.
Yeah, then the shank punt.
But then you have this happen.
Nebraska comes out 4th
totally
and 1.
redeems themselves.
Yep. One of the stuff plays that you see there, that was a great stuff play. MJ Sherman makes a play there. But then here's one of the big plays that happened, a bust in the secondary.
Yeah, just a little miscommunication. A couple times, let some guys get some free releases. The wide receivers are too good to get those free releases. It's going to happen, man. Those guys they have some NFL talent in their wide receiver group.
And how about Dylan Raiola with this 38-yard run and what he does here? You know what? It's kind of funny. If you watch down here, if there's one more block, he might score. Mm-hmm. You have a chance for, I think it's Banks is coming over to get Burke, I think, and he had a chance but didn't get there. And Raiola gets deep into their territory after a great run. He's had 4 runs total in the game, and then John Hall makes the first one to make it 7-3 from 39 yards. And you start to take a breath, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they survived that opening flurry at that point.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now, here you go again. Will Howard makes one of, like I said, 4 explosive plays to really change this game. And Jeremiah Smith's a great wide receiver as a freshman.
Another free release, but this was the moment where I'm just like, uh-oh, buckle up, boys, because I feel like at this time, to me, it could have got out of control.
Yep.
But the defense still hangs in here. They make the stop, and then Ohio State goes on to miss a field goal to kind of just like, okay, we're going to be in this thing.
Yeah, it had to make Nebraska feel pretty good. They've missed so many field goals. This is a great sack by MJ Sherman here, getting the stop on Will Howard, which backed it up a little bit, but it wouldn't have mattered. This was missed by yards. This was missed by a lot. This is not a good field goal, but that happens sometimes. You mentioned it's kind of windy in that stadium at times. Excuse me, here comes Nebraska back again. Here's a series of some DPIs that happened before OPIs happened later. Here's another good run. Dowdell actually looked like, and this is Emmett Johnson here, but they kind of started seeing it and developing it, right?
Yeah, Dowdell getting hot. I mean, that's what this offense needs. They need all their back. I mean, that has been such a missing piece for Dylan Raiola as we look at another one of these. And that was an offensive pass interference there, which it's just so hard, Jay, to even grasp that call.
You can't find anything wrong.
No, but he didn't extend. You could call OPI then on every play if you're going to call that.
Thomas Fidone right there near the end of the half after that bad spot. Nebraska still gets the field goal to make it 14-6. It had to have so much energy going into halftime, making it 14-6 there.
That kick it changed the game because 14-3 versus 14-6 just put all the pressure on Ohio State in the locker room.
And Nebraska, another stop, 3 and out, come back out. There's Ja'Cory Barney making plays again. Then Dowdell gets going. This is a 14-yard run here.
Another one, man.
Getting in the secondary. Then 12 yards. That was the one that Sean was talking about earlier. They had a chance to go the whole way. There's 12 yards right there for Dowdell again. And then you have the throw back shoulder. This is called an interference, but because of the catch, the interference goes off, so don't worry about that at all. And then, they had, like you mentioned, about 14 blitzes or extra pressure, 7 sacks. That was one of them. But here's John Hall to the rescue again to make it 14-9. You're feeling pretty good sitting at 14-9.
Yeah, just being in this position in the horseshoe as a 25.5-point dog, all the heat was on them and the fan base there. Then this play, they unravel on this interception.
Yep.
And if he scores here, you just wonder at this point
what happens. Yeah, it could have been different, but still, you get down there, you're at the 7-yard line, and you'd hope that you'd be able to score from here. Look, watch this. He goes down to the 1-yard line. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But they back it to 2, and then Dowdell's jumping essentially from the 3. That's about 10 feet. That's a long job.
It's just, again, the spot issues. I don't think it's that hard, but apparently so.
We move to the fourth quarter. Dowdell again, this time 19 yards. He just runs out of bounds on that one. I think he kind of lost where he was on the field a little bit, but gets 19 yards. And then who's become kind of the favorite target now for Dylan is Thomas Fidone. This one goes for 33 yards, getting down there. And then back-to-back on 3rd and 6, there's your first down. Now you're feeling really good after getting the first down. And then Isaiah Nair comes across. Looks like he scores. It's really close. But this is what we do now. We go to frame by frame.
But they actually got this one right.
Yes,
I'll give them that. They actually got this one right. But luckily they got the first down on this. That was a big scenario here. And you're like, okay, we better be able to get it for 4 tries from the half-inch line and boom, knock it on the first try.
Yeah, you bring in 2 defensive linemen there. And then, are you going to break down?
I'm breaking this play down the huddle. Just a great play call. Nebraska did try to run a shovel play earlier in the game. A little different. Got blown up, but that was just a well-executed play.
And this is why you bring in a guy like Will Howard to make a few plays for you. This is the 3rd of the big long passes, 37 yards here, to move them, to get everything going. After they hit that, you got Ibuka on the sideline. He gets the first down there. And then this is a nice route that the running back makes here.
It's tough. Anytime you have a linebacker on a running back coming out of the backfield, that's tough business, and he got the job done.
Pass here to Barney. That was the one where he got grabbed across. Dylan he says that he had a kind of a stinger in his shoulder, goes to the sideline, goes in the tent, but he's okay because Nebraska gets another stop on Ohio State. So he comes back in after this stop here. I'm sure there was booing happening in the stadium when that happened.
It was a loud erupting of booing at this point.
Yeah, they didn't want to see that. And then you have this pass down the sideline, a great pass here. But again, OPI called, that was kind of a shocking one. And then the throw across the middle, catch. They call it a fumble. I think it was pretty close, but in the end they call it targeting. So Nebraska's a first down. They don't call it unsportsmanlike conduct against Ryan Day. He kind of throws his headset. They don't call it. But then last chance for Nebraska here. It is 3rd and 19, interception thrown, and Nebraska falls 21-17. We take a look at the stats, and the one that jumps out the most for me is Ohio State's rushing yards. 64 rushing yards. And remember, Will Howard had a couple of runs in there. And then you look at the breakdown of the passing and Nebraska dominating the time of possession and breaking even on turnovers. It really was a game that Nebraska had a great chance to win.
Yeah, you look at that. I mean, you look at those stats. I mean, Ohio State 1 of 10 on 3rd down.
It's incredible.
Well, I mean, I can't think of when has an Ohio State team ever, had that issue.
Yeah.
But it was right there. The game was right there for the taking, and just not enough plays were made in crunch time. And we've said that a lot here the last 10 years.
All right, time for players of the game now. Now, it makes sense. Dylan Raiola, quarterback, played very well. The running is what really stood out. Jamari Butler, as Sean said, his best game of his career, 5 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, had the sack, and then John Hull. We've got to feel good for him after everything that's been happening this season, making the 3 field goals, making a 54-yard one, which is incredible. It really is. Let's go ahead and take a more look at the game and break it down. We go ahead into the huddle with Jay.
All right, guys, welcome into the huddle tonight. We're going to look at the 2-point play first. It was a really well-executed play. Coincidentally, they tried to run a similar play early in the game. They got busted up, but they come back to it. A perfect time to run this kind of power shovel pitch play. It was really well done. So you're going to get some power blocking action. You're going to get guard tackle on the left side down. Lutovsky's going to pull. You're going to get the jet motion up top, and they're going to put this defensive end in conflict to where he has to freeze and kind of read the mesh point. And you get the guard to lead up onto the linebacker. So this thing is really well done. You can see here, this defensive end for Ohio State, he's looking at the mesh point. Is he going to give it? What's the situation? So he has to freeze. Now, Lutovsky does a good job. Usually, if this was a true power play, he would kick out. But not. He's going to lead up, put him to freeze the defensive end. And Raiola does a good job. There's a timing element to this play. He can't just get rid of it right now because otherwise the timing gets off. But Borkature does a great job of following him around. A good pitch to him, and Lutovsky's going to do a great job of sealing this up. The timing, the execution was perfect to give Nebraska a 3-point lead in the 4th quarter. Now, following the 2-point play, this drive. This is the first drive afterwards. Obviously, Ohio State got a couple first downs. This is a 3rd down play. I'm highlighting Isaac Gifford. This is not an attack on Isaac Gifford, but this is just showing you how to play zone read situational football. Nebraska got a little lazy in this situation because Howard really never kept it. So Isaac really did not respect and have good vision on the mesh point. So I'm going to roll this here. He does a good job of rolling down. Now, you have a guy for the running back, which is not Isaac. This is Jamari Butler coming here. He's spilling this tight end. This is he's on the back. Isaac is not responsible for the back in the situation. He is a cutback QB type of guy. His shoulders need to be horizontal to the line of scrimmage so he can go either way. You can see right now he does a poor job of seeing the mesh point. We always say that with vision. Has to play with good vision, good at strong eyes. Poor eyes, and obviously you see his shoulders are turned. Now he cannot come out of this. If his shoulders were parallel to the line of scrimmage, he probably came out here and made a tackle for a loss or a no gain. Now it's 4th down. But he doesn't. Howard keeps it. So in this situation, Nebraska's got a little lazy with technique and eyes, and that makes a big difference in these tight games.
Contain in a way, right?
Right. And if his shoulders are parallel, he maybe gives it in that scenario. And Nebraska had it stone dead. I mean, I don't know who was over the nose there, but he knocked 2 guys back. The play is a no gain in that scenario. It's just those little things about vision. We always say you got to play with good eyes, poor eyes, but then body control, right? He technically did his job within the defense, but it wasn't done correctly. It's just it doesn't take much, with how your body's positioned to not execute. It's just simple footwork and just understanding what your role is. And I know Isaac understands that, but I think he just got lulled into that. That was the first time Howard kept it all game, and that's what happens. That's how you lose those close games.
Jay, we appreciate the breakdown. Coming up next on Big Red Wrap-Up, we'll hear from the basketball coach of the University of Nebraska, Fred Hoiberg, and we also hear from Dylan Raiola as well. But first, Hurrdat Sports has some pictures from the game in Columbus. More to come.
One of the key things from Dylan is he can do it, right? He has, he can do it, and he has the ability to scramble and look down the field, but then also take advantage and run. I think one of the really cool things I'm having a chance to experience with him is watching him grow each week. I think in the Indiana game, there was a play where he started to scramble and stopped and threw it back. And as I watched the game with him, he's like, I should have run it there. And I don't even know if that's right or not, but that's what he took away from it. So I think he, every week, is trying to find 1, 2, 3 things to improve upon.
It's just little things here and there that kind of get you in the big games. So I think just cleaning up the little things, and we have another opportunity this week to improve and go go 1-0.
I'll be very humble when I say this. I completely understand why people are frustrated, right? Completely, At the same time, what I would say is you go block that front without throwing a couple screens and tell me, okay, I mean, they're dominant, absolutely dominant. There's some kids that feel really bad on our team because they see the heat that, Sat's taking or I'm taking or whoever, and they know that they had a missed assignment. If they had blocked the man-to-man defender, the ball would have gone for about 50.
All right, welcome back to Big Red Wrap-Up. We are now joined by the head basketball coach of the University of Nebraska, Fred Hoiberg. Coach, we appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Before we get started, how you feeling?
I feel good. Yeah, I had a procedure a couple weeks ago to replace my pacemaker. It was starting to go low on battery. Kind of crazy. It's the third one that I've had now after the original one was put in after my first open heart surgery. And it's amazing where technology is. It was a very quick procedure, and I was back on the practice court 2 days later.
Hard to find time for something like that because you're so busy, obviously.
It is, yeah. I think the last day of battery was November 3rd, which is crazy to me that they know exactly the day on when it's going to happen. And I don't have what's called an escape rhythm. So if something were to happen to my pacemaker, I'm in trouble. So we just found a day where we had actually the weekend off. We'd given our guys Saturday, Sunday, so I went in Friday after practice, and then I was back on the court on Monday. A little more careful. I'm more on the sidelines just to make sure I don't get hit.
Oh, that's amazing. Let's talk about NIL and transfer portal compared to the first time you were a college basketball coach. How much of a difference is it? And is it more difficult or is it easier now to build a team?
Well, the portal was starting to come into its own, and I feel a little bit responsible, I guess, because we kind of built our team at Iowa State with transfers. And kind of my philosophy back then was we took over a pretty big rebuild, and in order for us to get competitive right away, our best chance was doing that through the transfer market. We weren't getting the top players out of high school at that time. And then when we had success, year two, made it to the tournament. That's back when those transfers actually had to sit out.
Right.
But, they gained very valuable experience and chemistry, and then got us into the tournament year two, and that led to 4 straight NCAA tournaments and 2 Big 12 tournament championships. And what we did after we got good with the transfers, then we started getting the right freshmen into our program that fit who we were, fit our system, both offensively, defensively. I guess the big difference now compared to those teams that we built at Iowa State was now everybody is in the transfer market. Back in the day, it wasn't as prevalent, I guess, as it is now. And then NIL is a whole different perspective, obviously, than anything that we've ever seen. And people are still, I think, trying to figure it out. With revenue sharing coming into play next year, there's going to be a lot of unanswered questions on how things still continue to work out with the collective and with NIL. But we're very thankful. We have a great collective here, 1890, the Pede family. Matt Davison have done a great job in putting us in a position to build a team, because you have to have that now in order to be competitive.
I want to ask you about that because we talk so much about football and even volleyball. How does it work? You're having a conversation with a student athlete. You want them to come to Nebraska. Then they go talk to 1890. How does that process work?
Yeah, that's basically how it does work. And there's rules in place, and we do everything in our power to stay within those rules. But I guess the biggest thing, you still try to sell everything that you can do for them as far as your program and what we've done in the track record of helping guys get to the next level. We've had 12 NBA players at the 2 places, Iowa State and Nebraska, in 10 years of college coaching. So 1.2 players per team coached have made it to the NBA. And that's a pretty good stat at schools, like this, where they don't walk in the door as pros or 5 stars. We really speak, I think, to the development, and our coaching staff does a phenomenal job with that, with player development. You see the growth of your players in the program. So none of that changes. It's just, going to speak to the collective and talking about NIL opportunities. Obviously that's a very new dynamic.
Yeah. I know you've said before, you want to get old, you want to stay old. You feel like you've kind of reached that point coming off a very successful last year going into this year?
Well, we were the oldest team in the league last year, and I really do think that played a big part in our success with last season's team. Even the year before, I really do think we would have been a tournament team had we stayed healthy that year. We had some really good wins early. The win at Creighton, winning a couple games in league early, and then Bandamel and Juwan Gary go down in pretty much back-to-back games. Now, that being said, we regrouped, and some guys got opportunities. Sam, being one of those. Jamarcus Lawrence was a guy that benefited from the injuries, and we ended up with the best record in the month of February that year, and then that carried over to last year's team. And, the thing I really appreciated and enjoyed most about that group a year ago was that there was no agendas. They came into work every day, and it just was a team that was so much fun. One of the most enjoyable years I've had in coaching. And then this year, talking to our staff, trying to identify the right guys to build off what we did a year ago, try to stay old, and I think we accomplished a lot of that.
You mentioned Sam a second ago, and I think all of us at some point coached our kids when they were like 5 or 6 or 7 years old. You're doing it now. And then I talked to Deion Sanders about this one time, too, about just the feeling before you go on the field or the court with you, and then while they're on there. What's that feeling like? He gets a big steal, he makes a big play, hits a 3.
Yeah, the thing with Sam is he's one of our hardest workers. And, when he did get his opportunity, I'll never forget the conversation I had with him. We were playing at Penn State. Bandamel went down with a crazy knee injury, and we knew he would be out for the remainder of the season. And Sam, at that time, I sat him down on the long flight back and just said, hey, you're the 3rd point guard now. You got to be ready to play. Next game, he was in there. He played really well against Northwestern. And then the next game at Maryland, he led us in scoring. He had 15 off the bench. And then he's been a staple in the rotation ever since. And the thing, he has the respect of our players because of how hard he works. There's no entitlement with Sam. Everything he gets is earned. But when you take a step back, I think that's the kind of the cool thing as a parent is when you go back and you're watching the film and you see the big steal against Maryland, and you're my parents were at that game. My in-laws were there. His twin brother came back for that game. So, that's when I think it kind of sinks in. This is really pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to see LeBron and Bronny go out together? When we're taping this, that happened last night. But what do you think about that as a parent?
I did. I saw that, and that's remarkable that LeBron, and he's still one of the most athletic players in the league, and he's got his kid playing on the same team. But yeah, that was a pretty special moment.
Let's talk about the post position with Rink not playing this year. You bring in some transfers. Some I can pronounce their names, some I can't. Well, how do you feel about that post position and trying to replace what Rink did as not just a post guy, but as a facilitator?
Yeah, I mean, we miss Rink. We'll miss Rink a lot this year because he did lead us in assists last year. And, the guy that really benefited from that a lot was Casey.
Yeah.
And, he made so many plays at the rim. Everybody saw what he did from the perimeter, but he had so many plays at the basket where he was a very efficient finisher, but a lot of that was because of Rink's passing ability. And also Josiah. Josiah did a nice job as well, and he really grew in that role. Now this year it's two completely different players in Braxton Mia and Andrew Morgan. And in Burke, he's the other one at 6'10", where we can play, a little bit more, not necessarily small, but more skilled out there on the floor. So it's different dynamics. Braxton's 7'1", rim protector, can put heat on the rim as a lob threat.
Yeah.
Andrew's really good with his back to the basket, a really good footwork on the block, and then Burke's ability to shoot the ball and pass the ball at that same kind of trail position that Rink played. So we've got different dynamics. We're not going to replace Rink with one guy, but again, I like what we've added in that area.
Bryce was obviously successful last year. When you're ending a season, you're talking to one of your best players. What do you tell them to get better? What do you tell them to work on so they can take it to the next level?
Yeah, I think the overall the message with Bryce is consistency, and he finished the year on a really high note, especially getting to the free throw line. That's one area where he really thrived at the end of last season and really played probably his best couple weeks of his career at the end of last season. So he had momentum going into this year, and there's no doubt about it. He's going to be our go-to guy this season. We're going to play through Bryce a lot. One thing that benefited him a year ago without a true point guard is he played with the ball in his hands a lot, and that's going to help him for his long-term career and also for our team this season. But, I was really proud of Bryce, how he grew, but he's got great versatility, especially for a guy that's 6'7".
Yeah, you guys did amazing without your point guard position, obviously having Ulis come in and not be able to play. How do you feel about that position? I guess Raleigh's going to be your starter, and kind of talk us how Ulis will work in it as well.
Yeah, I feel good about our point guard spot without really having a true point guard last year. Mm-hmm. It was more by committee, and then Rink brought the ball up the floor for us a lot last year as well. But now you got Ulis, who has been a starter in this league on some really good Iowa teams that made it to the NCAA tournament, and then Raleigh, who was leading Utah to an NCAA tournament berth, and then he got hurt, unfortunately, in the middle of the season. But, and talking to people in that league and people that have been around him, all they talk about is he's a winner, and he'll do whatever it takes. He's not, the overly flashy or, not a guy that's going to go out and shoot the ball every time. It's all about getting others involved and setting the team up and, getting us organized defensively. But I think both those guys, with their experience, both in their fifth year of college basketball, is a great benefit to our group.
I grew up at the beginning of the Big East where there was no nights off. Now you're in this 18-team conference with all these teams. What kind of talk to us about that feeling, that experience, and kind of trying to figure out how you put together a non-conference schedule to get you ready for that kind of league.
Yeah, league's a monster, and there really is no nights off. You're not going to face any team where you go out and say, all right, we're going to get this one. Mm-hmm. Every game is going to be a war, a battle, and you just got to go out and prepare as well as you can and try to stay consistent. There's going to be ups and downs, highs and lows, and we have to stay consistent through it all, whatever the outcome of the game. As far as our non-conference, I feel good about our schedule. We have a good MTE in Hawaii, where we're going to play there over Christmas. The St. Mary's game, they're going to be one of the top teams in the country this year, top 20 team up at the Pentagon, and then on the road against Creighton, and then some really good high-quality mid-major opponents as well. So I feel good about our schedule that will help prepare us for league play.
You were such a great shooter. I know you can teach shooting. Juwan Gary got better last year. How do you get him up over 30% in a place where you want him to be three-point shooting?
Yeah, he got up over that for a while last year and then went into a pretty good slump. But he hit some really timely ones for us. And when you look at his volume of three-point shots, they're almost double, last year what he'd shot in 2 years at Alabama. And we want Juwan to shoot the open ones. What we need to continue to work on is with the contest, either driving it, getting by it, making a play for somebody else, or going right to an uphill toss to a shooter that might be in the next spot. But when he's got an open shot, yes, we expect him to shoot it, and he's really worked hard on it, especially the offseason and then into the fall.
When you have ever a press conference or conversation about this team, you name so many names. How do you work that to get your starters ready, to have that bench ready, and then even the extra guys if you need them?
Yeah, that is going to be the biggest job this year for me and the staff is who's going to be in the rotation,
right?
Who's going to start, more importantly, who's going to finish. And I don't know if we'll have it all figured out at the beginning. We didn't last year, but we fell into it and it worked. So, this year I think I know who's going to be out there, but again, I think I've got 13 guys that can make an impact. It's obviously hard to play that many, so we're going to have a rotation. And the big thing to our guys, the message, your role at the beginning of the year may not be the same, and you always have to keep yourself ready and keep yourself prepared. And I think we have a mature group and a good enough group to handle that. Now it's just about going out and accepting whatever role you have.
Casey brought so much energy, whether he was making shots or just smiling or whatever else. Who are your energy guys this year to kind of replace his spot?
I think we got a lot of energy guys. I don't know if there's one true leader of this year's group. Rink and Josiah did such a good job in that area a year ago. Raleigh, I think, has very good natural leadership skills. Sam is a good leader. Bryce has really grown in that area. We're going to have Juwan help lead in certain situations. So I think it's a group that can go out there and lead, especially by example. Still trying to figure out who's going to be that vocal leader. When things get tough, you have to have that guy that can calm things down, bring everybody in. As I tell them all the time, I get 4 timeouts. I don't have unlimited. So you guys are going to have to figure this out on the court. And our biggest challenge is playing through adversity. And this league is going to hit us every night. If you play through adversity, you're going to be fine.
Last thing, playing at Pinnacle, I know you've been all kind of venues, in NBA to college to high school. The energy that the crowd brings, can you talk a little bit about what they do?
It's one of the best atmospheres in all of college basketball. And even when we bring in players, we've got a couple, Connor Siege and Gavin Griffiths, 2 guys we haven't talked about yet, but both those guys are going to have big impacts on our team. But when you bring them in, you talk about the league and where did you like playing, who had the best atmospheres, and the 2 that they always the thought that they brought up was Purdue and Nebraska, Pinnacle Bank Arena. So I think it speaks to the record that we had undefeated in league a year ago, and it's so nice to have that when things aren't going well. And I look back at that Wisconsin game. Purdue was awesome, beating the number 1 team in the country, but coming back from 19 against a really gritty, tough Wisconsin team a year ago, I think was the biggest win of the season for us last year, and a big part of that was because of our fans.
No doubt. Coach, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck this season. Thanks for taking the time. We'll be right back with more Big Red Wrap-Up, talking some UCLA. Number 3 this week, Malcolm Hartzog, another interception for number 7, and returns it all the way to the 7-yard line. And of course, as we know, Nebraska does not score on that drive. Number 2, the legs and feet of Dylan Raiola, showing he can run the ball. All talk all week was that his ankle was bad, and I think he said, I want to show you my ankle's not bad, and he goes 38 yards on our number 2 top play. And then number 1, field goals. John Hull just having a great day with his 3rd field goal at the end of the first half. 54-yarder after just struggling all season long. What an incredible story that he is. Welcome back. Time to talk some recruiting. We're inside Big Red Wrap-Up Studio talking to Sean Callahan. All right, let's talk about some visitors in our big news.
Yeah, it's going to be a big weekend for Nebraska. Several visitors, but the headline by far is Florida State commit Millard South tight end Chase Lofton will be taking an unofficial visit to Nebraska. It's the first visit that we know of that he's taken since his commitment to the Seminoles earlier this summer. Obviously, things aren't really going well at Florida State right now.
Yes, that's right.
So I would say this looks good for the Huskers. And,
yeah,
you know, clearly when you talk about arguably the number 1 player in the state, I think there's 3 players in the state you could say are the number 1. He's one of them. You make room for that guy, and I think Matt Rule would love to have him in this class if it works out.
You think he commits?
I don't know if it's this weekend, but
okay.
I think Nebraska, him just coming and getting to this point, I think is a very good sign.
All-around athlete, featured recruit, Caden Vermas, who I watched play against Central. That kid can really run.
Yeah, Caden Vermas from Millard North. You know, he was offered very early by the Matt Rule staff. In fact, I believe got his offer from the Mickey Joseph staff. Then it carried over to the new staff. And he was one of the first players to commit to Nebraska under Matt Rule, and just wanted to be a Husker, committed after his sophomore season. So it's rare to see a guy go through 2 years of junior and senior where he's been a full commit to Nebraska, but he's been all in since April of his sophomore year, and he's explosive. He's actually a boxer too, he's a tough guy. You mentioned off air, Michael, they play him a lot on Millard North where he's on offense, special teams, and defense almost every snap. Nebraska likes him right now as a safety.
His dad's a power lifter too, so he knows how to lift, he knows how to stay in shape. Let's do our in-state recruit.
And then staying in Millard, we had a Millard South tight end, a Millard North safety, now a Millard South offensive lineman, Landon Von Segren, possibly the top player right now in the state of Nebraska for 2026. There's a lot of guys that could end up in that spot, but in terms of early offers, Von Segren has Iowa and some other Power 4 programs. No Nebraska offer yet. I think the question is long-term upside at the height of 6'3". Where does he fit? He was actually a Papillion La Vista Monarch and was one of the 26 transfers that Millard South added to their roster, as David Benning likes to let us know on that trend. But Von Segren, one of the top linemen, no doubt in the state, and a player to keep your eyes on for 2026.
We'll do that. Thanks, Sean. We appreciate it. Let's get caught up on what we're going to have for our survey. Which team, if the Big Ten adds, should they add to the conference? Which one would you like to see? Iowa State sitting at 22%. You have 9% for Kansas. But of course, 59% for Notre Dame. Not a surprise that people would pick Notre Dame to be the team. This week around the Big Ten, the conference investigation into the fight between Michigan and Sparty at the end of last week's game was inconclusive, so no punishments are going to come down. Also, Michigan's quarterback Jack Tuttle has retired after 5 concussions, for the Buckeyes. Linebacker Averill Reese was reinstated after the targeting call against the Huskers. And once again, 3 of the top 4 teams are from the Big Ten. Third-ranked Penn State has said that quarterback Drew Aller will be a game-time decision against number 4-ranked Ohio State. Big Ten top 25 Oregon remains number 1 after a big, dominating win over number 20 Illinois, who dropped to 24th in the poll, and Indiana State at number 13 this week. If the playoffs started today, it would be seated like this. Indiana would still be on the outside looking in. Oregon would be 1, and Penn State would be the 5th seed, and Ohio State would be the 6th seed. We're 1 week away from the official rankings that come out next Tuesday. I think something else is happening next Tuesday as well. We're joined now to talk more about UCLA by David Woods, who's from Bruin Online. David, we appreciate it. How are you doing? And thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. It's great to talk about this game coming up.
Let's talk about the development of the staff. When the hiring happened and they start hiring OCs and DCs, what did you think overall about the staff you hired?
I thought it had some big name, obviously, with Eric Bieniemy coming from the NFL, and I thought retaining Akaika Malloy as the defensive coordinator was definitely a good move. He had coordinated in the bowl game, and I thought that he did a really nice job. Knew the defense pretty well. That was pretty good last year, and so far he's done a good job. I think with Bieniemy, you're getting that name value. You're getting that NFL pedigree, which can help in recruiting. I think it's been a tougher go of it for the offense so far, where installing what is essentially an NFL scheme. I mean, Nebraska fans know, going back to, I think it was the Callahan era, installing an NFL scheme at the college level is not a thing you do in a single season. And I think UCLA fans are seeing the growing pains right now. But it's, hopefully for UCLA fans, the payoff is there in a year or so.
David, the schedule and then the transition to the conference. I mean, you've had a game in Hawaii. You've obviously been to New York.
Baton Rouge.
First of all, the schedule maker for the Bruins didn't do you guys any favors there, but how tough has this transition been, just not only going into a new league, but the rigorous travel schedule the Bruins have had to go through?
Yeah, they were not eased into it. And part of it was their non-conference scheduling coming in, having to do at LSU and at Hawaii in the same year where you're trying to do a Big Ten schedule for the first time was not ideal. There were a couple schedules in the past few years where they had 3 home games. This would have been the year for that in the non-conference. I think it's been an adjustment. I think the bigger adjustment is simply the new schemes. I mean, I think people can pin it on travel, and I think that's had an impact to some extent. But they won at Rutgers. They won at Hawaii. They weren't going to win at LSU. They weren't going to beat LSU if it was at home either. So I think there's an impact, but I think it's a little overrated for the context of what this team is. I think the bigger issue is they played a lot of good teams. I mean, Indiana ended up, obviously, as everyone's talking about, a lot better than I think even people who were optimistic about Indiana and Kurt Cignetti would end up. And they came into the Rose Bowl and blew out UCLA. But they always had on the schedule LSU, Oregon, and Penn State back-to-back.
Yeah.
Nobody was thinking that was going to be anything other than 3 losses. It's really the Indiana game, and then they lost a winnable game to Minnesota at home. And those 2 are the ones that are kind of flipped from preseason expectations. But I don't see it as much of a road issue as much of it is that the team is just not, I think, as far along as maybe some people had hoped preseason.
David, as you mentioned the offense earlier, Ethan Garbers has a lot put on his plate this year as quarterback. He's thrown for just shy of 1,500 yards. How has he evolved so far this season in just the path he's gotten to get that first win in the Big Ten at Rutgers just a couple weeks ago?
First, got to say about Ethan, one of the toughest kids. He came back from 2 injuries last year. One, he was intending to redshirt and then maybe potentially transfer because Dante Moore had won the job. He came back when Dante Moore faltered, burned that redshirt possibility, then came back in the middle of the bowl game after he was probably going to sit out with an injury, but he came back when they needed him because Colin Schley went out. Really tough kid, had a really good end of year last year. This year's been a tough road simply because of that new offense, and the offensive line has not been able to pass protect at all. His decision-making has not been great, but I would invite anyone to have good decision-making when you're constantly getting run down by 280-pound guys. Yeah. He looked a lot better against Rutgers. He looked calmer, and I think Eric Bieniemy, the offensive staff, did a much better job of giving him quick game things to do. Yep. You weren't seeing the deep drops. You weren't seeing them trying to even look downfield. They've taken, I think, 1 or 2 deep shots in the last couple of games, and you've seen the offense flow a little bit better. This, as it is right now, you got to kind of play with the team you have, and I think Bieniemy is starting to realize that, and it's playing to Garber's strengths. He's an accurate thrower. He can throw it, short to intermediate, and he can make good decisions there. Yeah. And if he has time, he can make good deep throws, but he's not going to have time with this offensive line. So they're playing more to what the strengths of this scheme are. And he's a good distributor. I think in a different offense with a better offensive line right now, he'd look a lot better, and his stats would look a lot better than they do.
Dave, we really appreciate it. We'll see you on Saturday.
All right, no problem. Thanks, guys.
All right, let's go to our game day photo winner. It's Nathan Brewer. They say there isn't a bad seat in the shoe, but take a look at this picture. That is high up there. I think some people wouldn't be able to deal with that height. And we'll be sending you a Nebraska Public Media sports t-shirt. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and X to submit your game day photos and get some free stuff. In social media, a lot of fans were not very happy with the officiating, and this time they were rightfully so, saying the officials were the real MVP. And as we told you, the Big Ten said they made a bad spot in the end of the first half, and as you see right there, they agree with it. Can you please make it to a bowl game this year, please? All right, let's go to our questions. So we don't have a whole bunch of questions, but I want to start off by saying the one thing that UCLA has struggled with is pressure teams. And Rutgers is 111th in Havoc. Nebraska's like 17th. I think they can get to them and cause some problems.
Yeah, they can. If Nebraska brings that same mentality they had against Ohio State defensively, with Butler getting healthier, MJ Sherman, obviously your two interior guys with Ty and Nash, I expect it to be a long day. UCLA can't run the football.
Right.
I mean, they're averaging less than 70 yards a game. So I think Nebraska's defense can have a day, hopefully, and learn from their mistakes they had a couple weeks ago.
What they can do is all three of those running backs can catch the ball out of the backfield. And you have to worry about that, linebackers and everybody being able to play and stay home.
Yeah, just Nebraska's coverage on that second level needs to be at a high level.
Yeah, big time. Glenn Thomas from Jerry, he's a co-OC. Can we give him a try? He's a part of it, right?
He's part of it. There's discussions, man. There's everybody's involved to identify strengths within this offense and try to get them to work efficiently as possible. I'm frustrated as well with some of the play calls, but sometimes Dylan said it perfectly. They got to execute better as well. So it's still a work in progress, and I think we'll see a better overall game plan this week.
Jeff Mahoma talks about the West Coast kind of offense. Do you like the system they're running overall? Would you like to see them do something else, Sean?
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's a pro-style type system that they're going to run with Dylan Raiola. They're not going to run the option. They're not going to run the RPO zone reads with him that we've seen in the past. They're running this offense around the strengths of their quarterback.
I can see some RPO. What's your burning question?
Burning question, can it carry over? Can we see Nebraska carry over what we saw in Columbus into Lincoln here on Saturday?
17 points. I think that's the magic number for this defense to hold UCLA to 17 points. I think Nebraska gets it done for their 6th win of the season.
Can Nebraska run the greatest play in football, the screen? Can they execute the screen to the running back? I love it. You love it. Let's get it done. Don't forget to head to our website or Facebook page or X account and click on the prediction. Jay, Sean, and I will tell you what to expect in the UCLA game. Next game, as we said, against the Bruins, 2:30 Saturday on BTN. And then Tuesday night, Big Red Rap will be back, and we'll recap the UCLA game. And we'll be joined by Andy Kindy, sports director from KETV. Be back live on World, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live at 7 p.m. And you can catch the re-air, of course, 10 p.m. on Nebraska Public Media. On Friday night, we have volleyball for you with Nebraska Public Media with Creighton hosting St. John's. And then Sunday at 1 p.m., back on the court again. This time the Blue Jays take on Villanova. And don't forget to check out Nebraska High School Classics anytime on youtube.com/Nebraska Public Media. Our thanks to David Woods, Fred Hoiberg, for being with us as well. For Jay Moore and Sean Callahan, I'm Michael Severe. We'll see you next week on Big Red Rap.